Hello, everyone. This is Professor Sexton with a short video lecture on Scene 2 of Disgrace. Scene 2 of Disgrace is a very short scene in the play, so this lecture won't be very long. Um, and like I did with Scene 1, I'm not actually going to bring up copies of the play, so I'll just go over some few points about it. So Scene 2 occurs 2 weeks after Scene 1. And what scene two opens up with, it opens up with the Emily and Amir in their apartment. And what Emily is doing is Emily is reading a article in the New York Times in which it reports on Amir being there with the Amman when his case comes up. And the problem is there's an issue for Amir with the way that this is reported in the New York Times. Because in the New York Times, not only does it give Amir's name, but it says that he supported the Amman, and it also gives Amir's law firm. So Amir is concerned about his professional reputation here, and also that this article in the New York Times might jeopardize his position at his law firm. And what you see here, Emily and Amir have a different perspective on this. And it's similar to what occurred in scene one about their different perspective on the painting. Because in scene one, Emily saw that painting of Vasquez very differently than Amir saw the painting of Vasquez. And you see here, there's also a difference of perspectives in the way that Amir looks at this article and Emily. He believes that the article is not going to have any effect on Amira at all because she says it's like on some minor page in the newspaper, very few people are going to read it, and it's not going to have any issues for his position. Whereas Amir sees it very differently than that, and it causes a lot of anxiety in Amir. And what you also see between Amir and Emily here, you see tension building in their relationship. Now, it's not easy to say whether it's not easy to say if this tension is something larger or if this tension is directly related to the issue of Amir defending the Amman. But the thing that you do need to see is that scene two is kind of like a bridge scene. And what it does is it sets up a lot that's going to happen in scene three. Um, Second thing that happens in scene two is this. Isaac, who's another character that we meet, he's a curator at the Whitney Museum, and he meets with Emily to discuss her artwork. Now, when Isaac arrives, Amir is still there, but then Amir leaves because he has to go off to work. And what you have is you have a short conversation between Isaac and Amir. I'm sorry, you have a short conversation between Isaac and Emily. And this short conversation is essentially about Emily's work. And what Isaac and Emily talk about is they talk about how Emily is using Islamic forms in her artwork. And Isaac says a few things that can be read. They can be read two different ways. So, for instance, the past weekend, and this is something that we've not seen. The four of them were they had gone away for the weekend, and Isaac made a comment about Emily being a white woman who were using Islamic forms in her artwork. And initially, Isaac wasn't so keen on that because he thought that people would look at her as appropriating um, art and culture from a different form. But then Isaac makes a comment that is kind of, it just has a tinge of, I don't know, I don't want to say jealousy, but it's a comment that seems negative. So he's talking about Emily using Islamic art forms, and then he says, I mean, hell, you even got a brown husband. And to which Emily replies to this comment, fuck you, I think. And so it's kind of like a dig that Isaac is making at Emily. almost implying that the only reason that she's married Amir, who is of an Islamic background, is because he represents the type of art form that she likes to embrace. And so that, that comes up. And in this first scene and scene two, there's not much that we can do with this, but pay attention because when you get to scene three, a lot that has happened in scene one and scene two will come back. Scene three is the longest scene of the play, and it's the scene in the play where everything comes to a head. It is the climax. And so once you get to scene three, what you have to do is you have to go back and you have to look at the things that are happening in scene one and scene two, because scenes one and scene two have prepared you. Um, or it tries to prepare you for what happens in scene three. There's one other thing that I do want to say about scene two, and it is with Emily's comments about Islamic tradition. And so Isaac and Emily are still talking about art. And Emily makes this comment. She says, the Islamic tradition has been doing it for thousands of years. Pardon me for thinking that they may have a better handle on it. It's time we woke up, time we stopped paying lip service to Islam and Islamic art. We draw on the Greeks, the Romans, but Islam is a part of who we are too. God forbid anybody remind us of it. And so once again in scene two, you see how much Emily is involved in Islamic art and culture, which is very interesting when you look at Amir, who has like like is always distancing himself from Islamic culture and his Islamic background. Now, of course, the difference is Amir grew up in this culture and background. This is his culture and background. And Emily, it is not hers. She can appreciate it, she can admire it, which she does, but her perspective on it is not the same as Amir's. And what you'll see in scene three is that a lot of this is going to come to a head. So essentially, that's it for scene two. There's not really that much to discuss about that scene, as I said, because it's more of a bridge scene that prepares us for what happens in scene three. The lecture on scene three will be a lot longer because there's a lot more to discuss about scene three. All right, folks, take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.